Yes, good evening, dear Wolfgang, and I'm very happy that I can welcome everybody to this wonderful online webinar on Ayurveda with the topic about creating strong immune system through the strategy of Ayurveda. And it is great pleasure that and great support from His Excellency Ambassador of India, Raj Shrivastava, that he organized this event. And also, I am very happy to meet my great friend. Many years we know each other, Dr. Wolfgang Schachinger, and he is really one of the greatest experts of Maharishi Ayurveda. Many decades he studied Ayurveda under the guidance of the greatest experts of Maharishi Ayurveda, like Dr. Brihaspati Dev Triguna and Dr. Balraj Maharishi and Dr. Dwivedi, and the greatest masters from Ayurveda. And he was developing his expertise over the many years and helping many people with his programs. And he is a director of Maharishi Ayurveda Center in Austria and also founder of European Ayurveda Medical Association, and which is promoting Ayurveda in the whole Europe. So it's a great pleasure to ask Dr. Wolfgang to give us knowledge how to create strong immune system, which what is especially in this time very important to prevent any kind of disease. And as we know, the Ayurveda is aiming of making the field that it is not fertile for any viruses or any bacteria. So to create the condition of the body which can have a perfect internal coordinating intelligence, which can prevent any kind of bacteria to enter or virus and create disturbances. So thank you, Dr. Wolfgang, and please enlighten us with your knowledge.
Thank you for your introduction, and thank you for inviting me, and also for the Indian Embassy to invite me to talk to you. And it's a very great topic, because this is the topic of the time now. How can we prevent disease? And it's a question not only of distancing and of receiving a vaccination. The main thing is that we have a strong immune system, because this is what keeps our integrity of mind, of body and soul. Immune system is more important now than it has ever been before, because it seems that new diseases are coming and keep coming, and the virus that has come seems to be mutating and changing, so that the immune system may even not be protected by vaccinations, and everybody has to be strong on his own. So I'm particularly happy about being invited to this lecture on Ayurveda, and I just want to give you a short story of how I got interested into Ayurveda. And this started in the year 1968, when I was reading a magazine where there was a picture of His Holiness Maharishi Mahesh Yogi together with the Beatles in Rishikesh at the foothills of the Himalaya. And seeing this picture seemed to have opened kind of a deep memory or deep desire to get connected to the knowledge and to everything that comes from the Himalayas. And when I started to study medicine in 1972, I saw a poster with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi at Innsbruck University, and I started meditation. And this is how I got involved in the Vedic knowledge. And also I traveled to India in the same year, and this really impressed me so deeply that studying the Vedic knowledge and studying Ayurveda was imprinted, and a deep desire that has always been there since this time. So my topic today is the immune system, and it's actually about health. Health is the main topic of Ayurveda. And when I studied Western medicine, about 99% of the knowledge that I gained during this education was connected to disease. And the Western doctor is trained to fight disease. And then when I got more knowledge about Ayurveda, and also already about science of being and science of creative intelligence, I found out that actually it's much more important to get knowledge of health, because where our attention goes, this is what will be developed. So when we always have our attention on disease and we fight disease, we make diseases stronger. But when we strengthen our health, when we search for balance and nourishment for our mind-body system, then we strengthen health, and disease doesn't have a fertile ground to live. And here I present to you the definition of a healthy individual as it's stated in Sushruta Samhita, one of the oldest texts on Ayurveda. And it says, Samadosha Samagnischa Samatatu Malakriya Prasanat Mendriyamana Swastha Ityabhitiyate. And this means that somebody is in balance when doshas, agni, and dhatus are in balance, are strong. And this means that doshas are the feedback loops of the body. Agni means the inner fire and the metabolism, and the dhatus are the body tissues. This is the physiological part of health, and the key word for this part of health is sama. Sama means balance. So we need to create balance for our body system. And then in the second line, the key word is prasanna. Prasanna of Atma, meaning soul. Prasanna of Indriya, meaning senses. And prasanna of Mana, meaning mind. Means that all these levels of our mind-body system have to be blissful. And only when we live this bliss, this joy, this happiness, then we'll be really healthy. So the word for health here is svasta, which means being established in one's own self. So being healthy also means to be enlightened, to be a fulfilled individual with balance of the bodily functions and joyful inner being, joyful mind, and always positive in one's life. So how can we keep this health? This is the main topic in question. And perfect health actually is one of the main goals in the Ayurvedic texts and also in Maharishi Ayurveda. And it says in Charaka Samhita that the purpose of Ayurveda is to protect the health of the healthy and to eliminate the disorders in the sick. But the main emphasis is in protection of health and increasing health throughout the life, throughout the years that we exist on earth. So it's not something that we do once and then it's done for a lifetime. It's something we have to connect and we have to put our attention all the time and again and again. And the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche says, a little health now and then is the best therapy for the sick people. So he also knows this principle of the second element that is so well known in the Vedas and also in Ayurveda. So when we want diseases to diminish, when we want diseases to subside, we have to strengthen health. So that's the most important thing. And this is what I want to talk to you about. How can we strengthen our health? And when we have general health, then our immune system is also strong and cannot be thrown out of balance. So the main question here is also, why do we lose health? Or why are we in a situation of life where we don't feel healthy? And this is also being discussed in the Vedic texts, in the Ayurvedic texts. Under the chapter of causes of disease, it is written and it is said that there are two main directions of causes. One is called Paurushika. This means caused by man itself, caused by the lifestyle and the doings and the non-doings of the individual. And this is the main origin of disease. And there's another category, and it's called Devika. And Devika means that it's already there when we enter life. It's something that is part of our life, that is kind of determined when we get birth, when we gain birth. And it's a little bit more difficult to treat. And these Devika diseases we would call genetically caused diseases, and they are the minor number, and they can also be influenced in a positive way by different therapies. But what we talk about today are the lifestyle diseases, the ones that are caused by the way we live. And there are three categories of Paurushika diseases. One category is, and that's the most important one, that is caused by pragyaparat. This word means by a mistake in thinking, by wrong thinking, actually. And the other category is time. And the third category that is not listed here is by wrong use of the senses. But the main category, pragyaparat, wrong thinking, is what leads us into imbalance in life. And this wrong thinking comes from being overshadowed by the things of everyday life. So when we see food, we see how good it may taste, but we may not think, do I need this? Is it good for me? Is it good for my mind-body system? And this is why we often eat too much or eat or drink absolutely wrong things that are detrimental for our health. And this mistake happens every once in a while, and these mistakes can accumulate, and the more and more they accumulate, the more and more they create the ground for diseases. And there are so many fields of life where we can make this pragyaparat, this mistake in thinking. It's eating, it's our professional life, it's our education, it's our family life. So many times we do things that we know somewhere in ourselves that it's not right, it's not correct, but still we do it because it's easier to do, because it's in the beginning more attractive to do, though we know that we create a burden of bad health when we do it. So one example I always like to say is that you're invited for lunch and you really get a nice lunch. You feel very happy and satisfied at the end of the lunch. And you finish eating and you hardly have finished when you're asked, now do you want coffee and cake? And actually your stomach is full and you're content and happy. But still, you will not say no. And not saying no means that you overdo things. You create a burden on your digestive system, and through creating this burden on the digestive system, some toxins are created in the body, and this leads to some imbalance. And if this happens every day or very often, then this is something that leads to the accumulation of wrong substances in the body. Maybe it's too much cholesterol or uric acid, or it leads to an inflammation. Somehow the balance is disturbed, and this is what cuts down the healthy lives in the healthy years of our lifetime. And also when we think about time, the influence of time, we have the change of seasons, and this change always puts some pressure on our physiology. When it gets cold, suddenly we have to dress differently, we have different desires for eating, we have to drink more warm drinks, we have to heat our houses in order to be well and to keep balance in our body. So we have to react with our daily routine, and also with age, many things change in our life. So life is not something that is the same all the time, but there's always change, and we always have to react in the right way. And this is something where we can get a lot of knowledge and develop our intuition to always do it right through knowing Ayurveda. Now, one of the most important principles in Ayurveda is the principle of how the digestive system works. The digestive system is something that is operated in the Ayurvedic view by our inner fire that is called Agni. Agni is what we can say the inner energy, the personal energy of a body. And it's also responsible for the transformation processes in the digestive system. And through Agni, we digest what we eat. So when we take some food, it comes into the stomach, and then it's digested, means it is broken down into increasingly smaller parts until the parts are absolutely small and can pass through the linings of the digestive system and go into the body. And this process takes some time. It takes, when you take food, it always takes at least 4 or 5 hours until something that you eat and ingest is divided into parts and made into such small parts that they can surpass the digestive tract and go into the body. And we always have to respect this time, because if we don't digest the food properly, some undigested food remains either in the digestive tract or somewhere in the body, somewhere in the tissues. And whenever we accumulate undigested material, then we accumulate substances that are fertile field for diseases. And this undigested material is called ama in Ayurveda. Ama literally means the undigested. And ama always is created when the digestive process is interrupted at some point before it's finished. And then and this interruption, it comes mainly through eating before the food is digested completely. So when you take a full meal and after an hour or two, you start having cake and coffee, you interrupt the digestion of your lunch. And then some processes like fermentation or other enzymatic processes start. And this is something that creates foul smell in the body, creates alcoholic substances, and puts a great burden on the body. So it's very important whenever we take food that we keep the stomach free from new food until the portion that we have taken is completely digested. And Mother Nature has created some very simple and very significant information system to our body to tell us that the food is digested. And this is feeling hungry. So feeling hungry does not mean that you see a cake and you want to have it. Feeling hungry means that you feel some emptiness, some hollowness, some grumbling in your stomach, and your body is seemingly losing some energy, and that it will be necessary to add some food to your body. So you have the grumbling. It's a physiological feeling. It's not something psychological that you see a cake and you get the desire to take it. So it's a physiological feeling, and this is what you always should wait for until you take food. And this is one of the most important rules of good health from Ayurveda, that you give your digestive system the time to fully digest a meal and only then take the next meal. And if you do not respect this rule, you create undigested food in your body. You create deposits of undigested everywhere in your tissues. And these undigested deposits, they accumulate on the weak parts of your physiology. And everybody has some weak part. It's called Kavaigunya in the Vedic texts. This is one part where you are easily prone to disease, and this is where this ama accumulates and is the fertile ground for future diseases. So when you digest fully, then you create very strong body tissues, and you create ojas. And ojas is the body fluid that keeps us healthy, that keeps the integrity of our mind-body system. And this is the outcome of digesting completely, digesting the food that you take completely. And this is always and only the case when you wait for the next meal until you have serious feeling of hunger. And if you don't do, you create this ama and you're on the road to disease. So let's talk about ojas, because this is the substance of health. A strong immune system is created by the increase of ojas. So if you talk about immunity today, we have to talk about ojas. Ojas is the physiological correlate of a strong immune system. Ojas is the energy that maintains our integrity, and it also gives glory to the individual. If we have enough ojas, then we increase resilience, we increase vitality, and we have very intense joy of life. So prasanna is very much connected to ojas. And when we accumulate ojas in our physiology, we accumulate vitality. So this is something that gives us a lot more vitality and joy of life. And this is the safeguard of our health. So let's see what the Vedic texts say about it. What's the significance of ojas? This is what Ashtanga Hridayam says. It's the finest essence of food and dhatus. So it's created through digesting completely. It nourishes and regulates all the body tissues. It is thick and cool, transparent, and it's penetrating the whole body. It connects consciousness with the body. It keeps together body and soul. And the absence of ojas means death. And ojas is the controller of the states of consciousness and the states of activity of our mind-body system. So it switches our physiology from waking to sleeping, from sleeping to dreaming, from dreaming to transcendence, and directs us through all the states of consciousness. And here is more about Soma. Ojas keeps all living beings refreshed and young. There is no life without ojas. Ojas marks the beginning and the further development of the embryo. So it's already in the beginning of life, it's there. It's the embryo's nourishing fluid. It enters the heart at the moment the heart is created. Loss of ojas means loss of life itself. Ojas represents the essence of the fundamental substance of all tissues. This is called extracellular matrix in modern medicine. And prana is the consequence of ojas being present in our physiology. Now, how do we know about ama? Ama is the result of the interruption of the digestive process. So when we eat, when we have stress, when we exert ourselves, when we have a strong tone of the sympathetic nervous system, then the digestive process is interrupted and the food that's in the digestive system does not get digested anymore, and then ama is created. And etiological factors for the formation of ama are the derangements of the digestive fire, irregularities in the intake of food, irregularities in lifestyle, and mental and emotional stress. All these factors stop the digestive system from working properly, and then ama is created, and ama is the main pathogenetic factor in disease formation. Ama circulates in the body, it accumulates in the dhatus, and it blocks the shrotas. These are the vessels and channels of the body where our intelligence and the food and the nourishment, the vital substances are transported in our body. And thereby they give rise to imbalance of the biological rhythms. And when ama is not digested properly, it gives first rise to imbalance of function, and if it continues to be accumulated, it leads to destruction of the physiological structures of the tissues and organs. So an imbalance of function may be that ama leads to hypertension, or it leads to that you can intolerance of fatty substances in your food. And if you continue to take fatty substances, if you continue to have stress, one day you might have, out of your hypertension, you might have a heart attack, myocardial infarction, and that's a destruction of the structure. Or you might have a fatty liver disease. That's also an imbalance where the structure of the liver can be destroyed over time. So we have to get rid of ama, and we will talk about how to get rid of ama. First, here we have some symptoms of ama. How do we know that we have accumulated ama in our systems? We know it through experiencing tiredness, heaviness, also at the end of the meal, lack of energy, brain fog, unclear thinking, lack of appetite or over-appetite, or appetite for things that are not conducive to health, bloating and gas formation, constipation, irregular bowel movements, diarrhea, sour eructation, heartburn, sour or funny taste in the mouth. And one of the main experiences is pain in the limbs or in the joints. And then ama also leads to mucus formation, so that we have mucus and phlegm in the nose, in the bronchial tube, and other parts of the body. And ama also may have an influence on the urine and on the formation of our bowel movements. Now, what can we do to strengthen health and to remove ama? What we do in our practice is that we take care of 5 pillars of health for our patients. In order to strengthen the immune system, to create ojas, we have these 5 pillars that we go through with every patient and ask them to improve their life in these 5 areas. Area 1 is relaxation, and we'll talk about this in a minute. What are the recommendations we give to our patients? The next recommendation is pertaining to exercise, to sports. Then the next recommendation is regarding to nutrition and food supplements. And then the next recommendation is about detoxification or physiological purification. And one of the most important things to talk about is purpose of life. So what are we doing? How can we find our purpose in life? So when we take care of these 5 areas, we can do a lot to strengthen the immune system. Now, what are the areas of relaxation that we give recommendations? These are mainly 3 areas. This is Transcendental Meditation. This is something we recommend very frequently to our patients because this kind of meditation leads to very deep relaxation and creates a deep state of pure consciousness. And this pure consciousness is a main factor of the creation of ojas in the physiology. So this meditation is practiced twice a day. It's very simple and easy to learn, and everybody who does it will receive some immediate benefit and also some long-term benefit. And research shows that the immune system gets much stronger through this kind of meditation. This is also shown through the fact that hospital admissions are up to 90% less for practitioners of transcendental meditation than other parts of the population that do not meditate. What's also very important for our health and immune system is sleep. We need regular sleep. And when I say sleep before midnight, this may sound like a grandmother's recommendation, but it's very important to get some sleep before midnight. And we will see later when we check the doshas and the rhythms of the doshas how important this is. We also need breaks during activity. Our attention span is about 90 minutes. And if we always go over these 90 minutes with activities, we drain our energy. We overuse our body energies and our mental capacity. And this will also lead to tiredness, and tiredness is always connected to ama. Tiredness always blocks the strength of the digestive tract. So we need breaks every 90 minutes during the day, a short break like 5, maximum 10 minutes. We need a weekend, we need a holiday, so we need change. We need to break the symmetry of our daily routine every once in a while so that we rearrange recreate our physiological balance. Now, the next thing that we need is exercise. And Jadranko, as a Yogacharya, he will tell you a lot about how to exercise. And I think yoga is maybe the best kind of exercise. And it's almost as well researched as walking. And walking is also a great exercise. And this is something you should do every day. So until about 100 years ago, 120 years ago, our ancestors used to walk between 10 and 15 kilometers every day. Now the average European walks about 1 kilometer a day, average American 200 meters. So this is not enough to keep health in balance. We need a lot more walking, and this comes hand in hand with yoga. So we should walk every day. We should do some yoga asanas, some breathing exercise every day. And we can also do some other exercise. We can do jogging. We can go to a fitness center. We can do other exercises. But there should be one principle above all kinds of exercise. And this is that we always do every exercise only with nose breathing, because only then our body is in a mode of physiology where it creates ojas, where it enhances the digestive capacity. As soon as we start mouth breathing, our physiology loses energy. Energy is drained, and it's a burden to our health and a burden to our immune system. And you may have heard that quite a few younger people also were victims to COVID, and there are also sports people among these. And this is like people who do marathon or triathlon competitions. And many of them, they go over their capacity so many times. And whenever we go over the capacity, ojas is diminished in the physiology. And when you diminish ojas, you are much more in danger of serious disease than when you just walk. So walking or very light jogging is much healthier than doing marathon or triathlon or any other activities that put a high burden on the body. And especially important it is to do everything you do with nose breathing and completely avoid mouth breathing when you exercise. Now the next point is nutrition. What are the cornerstones of good nutrition? This means we need regularity of meals according to the strength of Agni. This means only have food when we are really hungry. We need a good quality of nutrients, and we should prefer organic food. Nutrients should be changed according to season and dosha. This means that according to the time of the day, we have lighter or heavier food. And also, we can have the best quality of food. If we don't eat properly, if we have a wrong eating behavior, then food will not be healthy. We need to eat with full attention. We need to chew well. Otherwise, our Agni cannot digest the food. And then we are on the way to creating ama. And what I already told you before, we need a minimum break of taking no food between meals of 4 to 6 hours during daytime and a minimum of 12 hours overnight time. You can see here, this is an ideal biorhythm of digestive fire and of meals. So you can have a light breakfast between 6 and 9 in the morning. You should have your main meal at lunchtime between 12 and 2 p.m. at noontime, and you should have a light dinner, not much time after 6 p.m. And there should be at least 3 hours of not taking any food between dinner and going to bed. Otherwise, also the food is not digested well and you create ama overnight. So here you can see the Ayurvedic concept of biorhythm. Food should only be taken during daytime. And this is when pitta, the fire, is strongest. And this is the time when you should take your food. And the main meal at lunchtime. And there should be no food at all during nighttime. This is a very important principle. And when I say food, I mean everything that is more nourishing than a glass of water. This is food. So even if you take some juice or take a small snack, this is all taking food, and it should not be done in between meals. So a meal is everything that has more nourishing value than a glass of water. So here, during nighttime, only take drinks. In between meals, only take water or tea. Now, one important area of food and of nourishment is the concept of Rasayana in Ayurveda. Ayurveda has this concept in order to increase health in the healthy. This is the concept of Rasayana. And Rasayana has two main principles. That's behavioral Rasayana and food supplements. And let's now talk about food supplements. And one of the best researched Ayurvedic food supplements is called Amrit Kalash. This Amrit Kalash was awarded a great award this last year. It was awarded with the title of Immunity Booster of the year 2020. It's mentioned in the classical texts. It's the first and most holistic Rasayana that is mentioned in Charaka Samhita. It's a well-researched free radical scavenger. It builds up all the dhatus and ojas. It prevents premature aging and strengthens the immune system. It was shown that taking this Rasayana leads to less infections and less allergies. I will now give a few more typical Ayurvedic Rasayanas in food supplements. One is Yashti Madhu, or Muleti, or Licorice Root. It's the best herb for any viral infections of nose, throat, and respiratory tract. And research shows that it has specific effect against COVID-19. And this herb is the main herb of MA 687 from Vashi Ayurveda. So you may be able to obtain it also in Croatia. And then ashwagandha, or winter cherry, is the very best neuroadaptive herb. It's useful for strengthening the autonomic nervous system and the immune system. And you can either buy ashwagandha in powders or capsules, or it's also contained in the Ayurvedic preparation MA 686. And then another very important herb for the immune system is tulsi, or Indian basil. It's the best herb for prevention and treatment of allergies and mucus formation in the respiratory tract. And this herb is contained in the preparation MA 1788. And these herbs were also recommended by Ayush, the Indian Ministry of Ayurveda and Yoga, and Unani and Siddha and homeopathy, the indigenous systems of medicine in India. They were recommended to prevent coronavirus infections. And one very important recommendation was also to use Anuthylam. Anuthylam is a traditional herbalized oil for nasal application, and it's very useful in prevention and treatment of infections and allergies of the nasal cavities and the sinus. And it's also very nourishing and soothing to the brain. And this Anuthylam is contained in the preparation MP16. So these are just a few hints. And I want to update you on a very recent development. This is a very recent publication. It was released just a few days ago. It's a research paper from the National Institute of Medical Sciences of Jaipur in Rajasthan, India. And it's a randomized, placebo-controlled pilot clinical trial on the efficacy of Ayurvedic treatment on COVID-19 positive patients. And they used exactly these herbs during this study, and they could find out that they could prevent 100% of serious COVID-19 diseases, and the duration of the disease was cut down by at least 4 days. So it was very effective, and it should really be followed up by further research. So here you can see that also in this new disease, Ayurvedic remedies and Ayurvedic herbs are very effective. Now let's move on to detox. And this is one of the very strong expertise parts of Ayurveda, and I feel it's the expertise part besides meditation and development of consciousness. The classical text recommends seasonal purification, and they call it Panchakarma because this consists of 5 purification treatment modalities. The effects of purification treatments are increase of ojas, removal of ama, balance of the doshas, clarity of senses and mind, rejuvenation, and Panchakarma is the therapy to remove the root cause of diseases. When I started with my Panchakarma clinic in 1993, about almost 30 years ago, I was invited for a TV interview on a regional TV station, and they asked me what's the special thing about Panchakarma and about Ayurvedic treatments. And I said that what we do is we purify the body. We remove the ama, we remove the toxins from the body, we remove the remains of the body that make us age and that bring about disease. And they asked in the same interview a senior doctor on nutritional medicine. And he said, well, what Dr. Schachinger says just isn't true. There is nothing like toxins or ama in the body. The body removes it every day when you go to toilet. And this is not something that has any scientific evidence. Now, this situation has changed completely since the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine was given to Professor Osumi from Japan in 2016, so 4 years ago. Professor Osumi explained the molecular mechanisms of autophagy, and autophagy means nothing than self-purification of the body. Every cell produces some garbage, let's say, and this process of autophagy removes the garbage from the cells and from in between the cells. And they are then recycled, and this is what leads to a great rejuvenation of the body. So the main principle of autophagy is the break between meals. So autophagy is always started in the body as soon as we have a minimum time between meals. And extending the time between meals increases the chance of autophagy, or in Ayurveda, we would say of amapachana, of removal of undigested particles from the body. So what Professor Osumi and other researchers found out is that simple living beings, simple species, would increase their lifespan by 2 or 3 times when they had these breaks between meals. And even mammals like mice, they would increase their lifespan by about 50% through food restriction and through starting autophagy by this process. And this, what it does is that these AMA particles, these damaged cell organelles and other undigested particles in the body, they are surrounded by so-called lysosomes, and they make three things out of the unused particles. They make energy, they detox, and they make components that build up the cell again. But as I told you, this process can only get started, can get initialized when no new food enters the body. So it needs at least 5 or 6 hours of not taking any food, only liquids like water, that this process can get started from the body, by the body. So this autophagy is kind of a recycling system in the body, and it's the main rejuvenation system of the body, because as long as these particles, these damaged substances, or this garbage is in the cell ages a lot quicker, and it will die much earlier. As soon as these things are removed, the lifespan of the cell is increased. So autophagy protects against premature aging, destruction of nerves, as it happens in Alzheimer's. It protects against cancer and also cardiovascular disease. So it's actually what is called amapachana in the Ayurvedic texts, and this is the way of removing ama and creating ojas. So here we have another way of showing how it works. When you have a purified body system, then the extracellular matrix is pure. It's not blocked. When this autophagy process does not take place, you have all kind of rubbish, of waste material that blocks the liquid in between the cells. So when there's no ama, there's unrestricted supply of nutrients and information to every cell. And when there's ama, then you have poor supply, poor disposal, and poor communication between the cells. So this is something that inevitably leads to disease. And this is the Ayurvedic response to this, and it's called Panchakarma. Panchakarma is a three-phase process. It's a pre-treatment, and it has main treatments, and it has a post-treatment. And this is a very complex procedure that should actually be done under inpatient conditions. But there, as I will show you, are some other ways to do it. So here you see some nice pictures from Panchakarma treatments in our clinic. And it's a really great thing to go through Panchakarma. These wonderful massage techniques, these purification processes, the beautiful oils, the smell, the soft touch. It's really something that is so fulfilling to the heart, and it's so purifying to the whole system. So full Panchakarma is something that takes about 3 weeks. It starts with a pre-treatment that can be done at home. And then the main treatment should be at least 1 or 2 weeks. And you need to take a vacation. And it has to be done basically as an inpatient treatment. And then for post-treatment, you go back home and do your Rasayana therapy at home. Yes, but there's also the good news that there's a shortcut to Panchakarma. Actually, the classical texts say that this treatment should be done at least twice a year. But who can have the time, who can have the funds to do it twice a year? So what I developed is this home purification treatment, and I call it the Herbal Detox. It's a 1-week purification treatment according to the classical texts, and it involves some diet, some herbal preparation, some exercises, and an intestinal cleanse. So it's actually absolutely according to the formula of Panchakarma. And it's easy to apply it at home, and it's also available as a webinar under the guidance of 2 doctors, that's myself and my daughter, who are leading these webinars twice a year. So when should you do a Panchakarma treatment or this herbal detox? When you want to prevent disease, so basically everybody. When you know that you have accumulated some ama, when you have some joint disease, some pain, when your digestive power is deranged, when you have a metabolic syndrome, means high cholesterol, high blood sugar, high blood pressure, diabetes, old age diabetes, etc. When you're overweight, all these are reasons to do a treatment like this, because you will be a lot healthier after this treatment. And it's an effective start for any other medical treatment. So you should also do it when you're sensitive to recurring infections, when you feel tired or burnt out, when you are living a hormonal imbalance. And also we have great success in treating patients in between chemotherapies and radiation therapies in cancer treatment, and it stimulates the self-regulation in complicated diseases. So it's a great thing to do, and it's easy to do. And I want to mention to you that you have a great chance to enter one of these webinars that will start by April 9, so it's 2.5 weeks from now. And this webinar consists of 7 interactive webinar lectures, herbal preparations according to dosha for 1 week, a Virechana therapy, that's an intestinal cleanse. You will learn 5 exercises, receive the daily inspirational email and a course booklet, and you have access to all webinar recordings for 2 weeks. So it's a great thing to do. And if you're interested, please check the website ayurvedawebinar.eu. So ayurvedawebinar.eu. And it says there that the webinar is already closed, but still you can enter and you can order it. And as Croatia is part of the European Union, you will receive the webinar package within a few days. So it's still early enough to apply if you're interested. So we come to an end, and I want to end this lecture by inspiring you to make use of some of the recommendations that I've given to you. And I also want to express my gratitude to my spiritual teacher, His Holiness Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, whose motto of life was, expansion of happiness is the purpose of life. And happiness is actually one of the best things to create ojas. So always strive towards happiness, always think what makes me happy, because when you do things that make you really happy, deeply happy, in the depth of your heart, then you're on the right path of evolution. Then you're living the purpose of your life, because then you're doing the right thing. Whenever you do something wrong, it makes you feel heavy and unhappy. As soon as you feel deep inner happiness, you know that you're on the road to great evolution and fulfillment of your personality. So take care of happiness and take care of yourself. Thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, please enter your questions into the chat. You can find the chat in your menu, and in your menu bar of your computer and just print your questions, and I will take time to answer all your questions. So thank you for listening again. Take time for the most important issue of life. Take time for happiness. So thanks again, and thanks for inviting me to talk to you. Mr. Shrivastava, you can now start the video and talk to the group.
Very good to see you, Dr. Schachinger, after a decade.
I'm very happy to see you again. We met so many years ago when during your post in the Embassy of India to Vienna, and it was very beautiful time to meet you there, and I'm so happy to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining this webinar, which was organized by our friend Jadranko Miklec, Yogacharya, and you had very readily accepted this invitation to join today. And I was listening to your presentation, and all my memories of last 10 years came back when I think met you first time in 2010 in Vienna. And then we ended up organizing an international yoga and Ayurveda conference in Klagenfurt. You will be happy to know that we are planning an international yoga and Ayurveda conference here in Zagreb, hopefully in June, if COVID situation permits it. If not, then we will postpone it, but we definitely will try to have it this year. And we hope that you will be able to physically join us here. So very happy to see you and see your presentation. Ayurveda has become more important in people's life in this COVID-19 time. As you yourself mentioned, that there have been studies and publications explaining how Ayurveda and yoga practices have helped people to increase their immunity to handle the COVID-19 pandemic much better way. Because ultimately this pandemic is all about attacking the immune system. And the science of life, life sciences like Ayurveda, are basically about understanding your system and making that system immune against the outside influences, which are negative sometimes. So in that sense, I think the importance of Ayurveda, which was always known to experts like you, have become more public in this kind of crisis when people had time and requirement to address these challenges. I was listening to your presentation, and I myself have got more interested personally in Ayurveda over the period of last few years. And when we look at the composition of each of us, this is basically three systems, three kind of different compositions that the humans are divided into in the Ayurveda. That is Vata system, or Pitta, or Kapha. But ultimately, these all three are based on the 5 elements that we are made of. And you mentioned about Ojas. So basically, when we look at our human health, it's about how dynamic we are, what is the dynamism in us, what is the radiance in us, and what is cohesion. And I think Ayurveda system is a very, very rational system, which explains that we need to balance what we don't have so that our life is much more stable. So people with a lot of wind and sky or space should need to balance with more cohesion if they are missing earth and water. And that allows us to decide what kind of food we should be eating. So I think these are very, very simple principles of life, very easily followable, because you need to use natural products, what is available in the season, what is available around you. You don't need to do a lot of import-export because a lot of things are developed in the nature around you. And I think this is the beauty of Ayurveda. That's why when I tried to think about organizing this international congress here, I got the full support from Ayush, because I see that in Croatia, for example, and the surrounding countries like Austria, Slovenia, Hungary, there is a lot of interest about these life sciences. And with this ecosystem, I think we can grow this knowledge further, because we are living in this time where humanity is looking at new challenges with new perspective, life-changing perspective. And I think it is important that we learn from the universal knowledge and do not restrain it in certain boundaries of national boundaries. So in that sense, I think it is a very good way to keep connected and find an opportunity where we can share these experiences and improve our lifestyles, benefit from each other. So very happy to welcome you here in this webinar. And I'm sure that we will have more opportunities to join these things physically together. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to see you again.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. Shrivastava. Really happy to meet you again. And thank you for your really knowledgeable comments about the principles of Ayurveda. And just let me comment on your comment, because you said that we have these triple energies, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, to take care of in our food. And I wanted to make it even more simple, make two out of the three, and say, well, what is even basic to these three is the principle of rest and activity. And this is the basic rhythm of the universe. We have day and night, we have winter and summer, we have ups and downs. Everything runs according to this principle, and we should apply this basic principle of the universe to our digestive system and to how we eat. And this is something that's been completely lost to our civilization, that we need a break between meals. So many people just unknowingly, unconsciously keep eating, keep just putting food, and many times it's junk food, into their mouths, not knowing what they're doing. And just by taking breaks between meals, not taking anything but water, we really make our digestive system stronger. And then we will regain the natural feeling of what is good and bad for us. We know from research that the more stressed we are, the more imbalanced the food intake is, the more we are attracted by junk food. And once we start taking breaks, not taking food and drinks all the time without interruption, our selections will be much more healthy. This is one way to create ojas and better health, to strengthen our whole system and remove the ama, or at least not create any more ama.
Right. I want to add one thing about this very important thing that you mentioned about that after the meal, when the cake and coffee is offered, it's very difficult to say no, even though you are full. I think there is a very important angle to this, that we need to understand the spiritual part of our human lives. And this is very important because they say that, we are humans for a reason. And that reason needs to be understood, that there is a larger purpose of life. And that's when you can remove this, what you call passion towards things, which are actually the tools towards achieving the bigger purpose of life. Mm. And I think in that sense, when you are looking at food is just a tool towards what you want to achieve in life. And once you have that perspective, you will never become kind of you will be master of these kind of temptations rather than slave of those temptations.
Yes.
And this is very important because once you consider that you are human and different from rest of the species, then you need to find out, like for example, yoga. Yoga is all about keeping a body which is sane, which is healthy, so that you can do more with that body. The body itself is not the objective. Objective is somewhere else, but you are keeping the body fit to have a stable mind, and then go for the bigger purpose where you look at the universal consciousness, where you can tap more from that by having a stable mind, a stable body. So I think this is, when you have this spiritual perspective, then these life sciences become very, very useful. Otherwise, they remain only up to a point, and then you go back to your normal tendencies, which is called animal instincts. Thank you.
Thank you for this very, very deep, knowledgeable comment. And I want to underline every single word you said. And let's ask Jadranko to give a final comment, yes, and maybe close the session, because I see that there's not much questions coming in.
Thank you very much for your beautiful knowledge, and also the comments very valuable from His Excellency Ambassador Raj Shrivastava, because he is ambassador of the Vedic country, where the ancient knowledge was preserved for the future of humanity. And now is the time so that India can share that knowledge and enrich the life all over the planet Earth. And in the ancient time, there was some procedure called yajna, which was done with the purpose to nourish the intelligence or the laws of nature which are governing the life in the universe and on the planet Earth, to be supportive for the life on the planet Earth. And in that yajna, the priest used to put some food items to the fire, and the fire was transforming. Now, regarding the eating, we are every day doing the yajna, because the fire, Agni, is our stomach, and we are the priest who is putting the items on that fire, and that fire is transforming them and nourishing all the intelligence of our body, or the gods which are in the temple of our body living. And if the food items are good and the fire is good, and if the priest is good at attention and with a very focused attention on the process of eating, then it will be very successful. So from that point of view, we need to take eating not just some automatic mechanic of throwing the food into our body, but eat very consciously. With each spoon, we feel we are offering this to the gods in our body, to the fire, to nourish the intelligence of our body to function properly. Then that ojas will be created more. All body tissues will be, the metabolic process is better in the function, and then we will have a strong immune system and so that's why the ancient tradition was eating in silence, with full attention on the food, with a loving attitude, and with thankfulness to the nature for giving us this opportunity that we can maintain the life on this planet Earth and evolve. And also, one thing I would like to share, one wisdom from Maharishi Swami Demurti, one great yogi. He used to say very simple advice: eating you drink, and drinking you eat. So it means that the crude food which you are eating, you should chew so much in your mouth that it becomes liquid, and then you take it in the stomach like drinking. And the water or any liquid which you take in the mouth, start chewing like you are eating, and then put it in the stomach. So if you pay attention to these simple things, then you will never have problem with the stomach. And already the first process of digestion starts in the mouth, with all the enzymes mixing the food and preparation, and then the stomach and the fire will have easy job to do, and then further process of nourishing of the body is much better. So there is so much knowledge which we need to share with the people, and they are so simple recommendations which everybody can apply little by little every day, remembering this and applying, and then the more health will be there. Thank you very much to everybody. And thank to all participants.
Yeah, I wanted to add one more point before we say bye. So as you are aware that next year India will be 75-year-old as the independent nation post the colonial period. 15th August 2022, India will be celebrating 75 years of its independence. And from now, we are celebrating this India at 75 as 125 weeks celebration. So I think this is a very good time, as Yogacharya mentioned, that this is the time to share that knowledge. I think this 125 weeks ahead of us, a very good time to share this knowledge on a weekly or fortnightly basis. And in that, gurus like Dr. Schachinger or Jadranko Miklec will play a very, very important role. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Your Excellency, and thanks for inviting, and it's a great joy. And let's close for tonight. Thank you everybody for listening, and have a good time, and don't forget to be
Thank
happy.
you. Good
Good
night.
night.
Night.